about the book and the things that led to me to writing this book. And to do that, it's a very personal book. Some of you might have read it or know. And I think it's important when I get to the discussion about the prison, about Palestinians, to know where I was literally and figuratively coming from. I came to Israel. I think the idea of Israel I came to in a unfortunately wholly negative way. I resist this temptation which you see non-Jews talk about over the course of history, the temptation to see Jewish history and Jewish identity as simply a reaction to anti-Semitism. The formula of no anti-Semitism, no Jews doesn't work for me now, but I think, to be fair and honest, when I was 12 or 13 or 14, that was the formula. When my parents fled Brooklyn for the East, by East I mean Nassau County, they, along with thousands of other Jews clogging the Southern State and the expressway, they actually did what I've come to realize is that they performed a sort of a sociocultural and geographic impossibility. They found a non-Jewish section of Long Island, which is a little town called Malvern on the South Shore, and it was an interesting place to grow up. Even today, I think of it very fondly as a wasteland of Irish pogromists. When I was growing up, and when I was very young, I encountered something that I think is blessedly rare in American life. I encountered kind of long-term schoolyard anti-Semitism problem. And to an unfortunate degree, I think that shaped my interest in my awareness of being Jewish. It was, in retrospect, not the worst thing in the world, but it was my world when I was 12 and 13. And like many Jews, I sought answers for my dilemma. At first by going to the library, literally. And it's in the library where I discovered the works of the Black Panthers. And I read the Black Panthers as a sort of metaphor for the Jewish condition. I might be the only person who ever made Aliyah because of Eldridge Cleaver. But, and then when I was exploring through reading, trying to understand what was happening to me, I did finally stumble upon the shelves about Zionism. First I discovered Meir Kahane, and I fell in love with him until I realized that he was an immense schmuck. And then I started discovering the history of Zionism. And Zion, it wasn't, as a 13-year-old, a 12-year-old, it wasn't a highfalutin concept. There wasn't much thought given to me about the emancipation of European Jewry and the persistence of anti-Semitism. Zionism was very personal to me because I looked at Israel and I saw it as an answer to my problems. The essence of Zionism at that age to me was, if somebody hits you for being a Jew, then you hit back. It seemed very, very simple, and it was a very seductive lesson. I took that lesson to heart. I did learn how to hit back, and lo and behold, my anti-Semitism problem disappeared in my junior high school. But from that moment on, it sort of solidified in me and hardened in me this idea of Jewish power, that having power is better than the alternative. For me, and for, I guess, people of my generation, the signal moment in my life, I think, was the raid on Entebbe. I think for a generation half a step older than I am, it was the Six-Day War. But there was that moment came when the Israelis raided successfully Entebbe, and I thought to myself, this is it. This is the ultimate expression of Jewish power and enfranchisement. I mean, it was a beautiful thing, and it was a poetic thing too, because if you recall, some of the hijackers in Entebbe were actually Germans. So I felt almost as if this was a response to the Holocaust in a way. And from that moment on, I think I had a dream of becoming an Israeli soldier. 10 or 11 years after that, I actually did become an Israeli soldier. And unfortunately for me, by that time the raid in Entebbe had been successfully completed. And necessity transformed itself from an army into a police force. I wasn't particularly interested in being a policeman. Certainly I wasn't interested in participating in some of the uglier manifestations of the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza, but you don't get a choice. You lose your freedom pretty quickly when you go into an army, and so on a particular day in 1990, I was sent by truck to a place called Ketziot, which you mentioned. Ketziot, a prison camp in the Israeli desert, 2 miles from the Egyptian border. On the day I arrived, there were 300 Israelis at this camp and guarding 6,200 Palestinian prisoners. It was, at the time, the largest Israeli settlement in that part of the country. Certainly wasn't the dream that Ben Gurion had about what to do with the Negev, but there you were. I didn't want to be there for many reasons. A, it wasn't sufficiently heroic. B, I was not interested in doing the work that needed to be done because, for reasons that I'll go into in a second, I understood, I thought, why the Palestinians were there. I also did not want to be there because I never pictured myself carrying a baton and a tear gas canister. It was not in my emotional or political makeup to even imagine such a situation. And to explain that, let me just jump back once more to my childhood, because I think many people here will understand what I'm talking about. If I had raised myself, in essence, to be a Jewish nationalist, my parents raised me to be a Jewish universalist. We were a very liberal family. I mean, the joke in my family always was that a religious Jew was someone who went to shul on Yom Kippur and wasn't an active member of the Communist Party. And we grew up without the consolations of organized religion, but we did have a theology. I think at the place of honor was Cesar Chavez. We didn't obviously keep the kosher laws, but we had a United Farm Workers sort of kosher in my house. I never tasted iceberg lettuce or green grapes because the United Farm Workers said you couldn't. Actually, when I got to Israel and I was working on a farm and I had green grapes the first time, I thought, man, these are good. And I called my mother, who was the really hot-headed one, and I said,